So back at our beach house, just planning on working on this wall today. Maybe see what was going on behind this part. Looks pretty solid though. Looks like the water stopped. On the other side though, we decided to take down the cabinets to see what was behind there because it looked like there might have been water infiltration there. Here's what we have. Here's a view of the siding from the outside. So I guess I'll work on stripping this and see how far back the destruction goes here. I found this window at Lowe's on the clearance aisle, so it was pretty much half price. It's a replacement window that would be designed, I guess, to go in an existing jamb. I'll just add the jambs to it later. I think at this point I just need to rough frame it in. So next we need to make a header to go on top. I've cut a 2x10 to width, cut a piece of plywood. It's not the entire length, but as small as this opening is, I don't think that'll hurt anything. And then we'll knock this together, put it up. Amazingly, I had some construction adhesive. We'll see if it's any good. I don't know what's wrong with that dog. Cooper! Hey, filming here. Oh, jeez. Hey, Coop. There are probably plenty of other videos showing you how to make a header, but essentially, sandwich piece of plywood in between your dimensional boards, pretty much to give you the width. It also helps with the strength. This is a little bit short. There's a scrap I had. This little section missing will not hurt anything, in my opinion. Oh, she's a little thick. And the step may not be necessary. It may be optional in this case because this tube felt pretty soft, but clearly I'm surprised the side of the tube hasn't blown out yet. Anyway, you get the idea. Stick our piece of plywood in here. Our other side of the header. Make sure it's all flush. And we'll just shoot it together. So the next step in this is, hopefully my measurements are right, I need to cut jack studs that will hold that header up. Then I can at least get one of them in and get the header held up and get it nailed in. The reason we're going through all this, because you don't want the window to support the weight of the roof above it. Although, there'd be studs every 16 inches. So what we're doing here is the header and these jack studs, they go in next to the king stud, which is this one next to it. That'll carry the load across and distribute it down past the window. So there's essentially everything supported and there's no weight on the window, if that makes sense. There's probably plenty of other videos out there that'll do a better job of explaining it, but here you go. Now with any luck, this header should fit. Up here above the header, you need to put these little cripple studs in. At least I think that's what they're called. And they will transfer the weight from the top plate down to the top of this header. So next up, we need to support the bottom of the window. These are kind of like, we're going to build another shelf here. So these are kind of like the jack studs we put to hold the header up. I believe these are cripple studs, but don't quote me on that. So we'll go ahead and get those in there. Next up, I believe this is the sill plate, or the bottom sill plate, because we're going to put two of them. At least that's the way the other window's done, and that's the way I've seen it in other places. So. So these would be cripple studs, again, also underneath this sill plate, or sub-sill plate, whatever you want to call it. And they'll support the window, even though the window's not that heavy. But anyway, and these are just following the 16-inch on center from everything else. And on top of these triple studs and the sill plate is another sill plate. Of course, I'm out of 2x4s long enough, so I had to piece this together, which if it were something more important than this, I might be worried about it. So we'll bang that in there. And it also is New Year's Eve. I don't feel like going and getting one 2x4. So I think part of what caused some of this mayhem is they ran this outer plywood all the way down to the ground, and then they flashed it with metal flashing. And it doesn't look like, when they did this concrete apron, pad, whatever, they sloped it properly. It looks to me like it goes uphill. So all the water was sitting at the bottom and getting wicked up in. So I'm going to get all this off here and then come back in the existing plywood. I'm going to try to cut it so it's not acting like a wick, because there's concrete down below it. Managed to cut that much off the bottom. Gives me about, 2 inches. So I cut a new piece of plywood to 22 inches to give me that same clearance. See if I can get it up here on myself. I put a chalk line on here to establish my height all the way across. So I got all the sheath. I'll just cut out the window opening when I go to put the window in. Also, if this will show up, jammed a piece of metal flashing in where water was coming through. I'm hoping that'll divert it long enough that I can figure out exactly what's going on, get it sealed. I think I do, but anyway, we need to go home and come back to this another day. So it's been 4.5 months. We're back at the beach. I'm gonna try to see if I can finish this wall during this time period. First off, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the opening for the window, so I'll go ahead and put the window in first. Don't see any more signs of leakage, and I replaced the final stud. So next, we'll get this cut out and figure out how to put a window in. We'll start out by just drilling a hole in each corner. Now we've got the corners established. Just take the Sawzall and go around and see how well that works. Let's see how it works from the outside. So our opening's cut, and since this is a replacement window, there's no existing structure like the sill. So I'm going to go ahead and make a sill because I couldn't find a pre-made one. I'm going to make it out of this piece of 2x6. So we're going to go to the workshop with the table saw and see if we can get that cut. I have the blade set at 15 degrees. So I want to pick the side that's got the least crap and knots in it, which I think is actually going to be this side. So I'm going to cut that back at 15 degrees, but I want to do it upside down. So this will end up being the bottom. It'll make sense here in a second. Hold your ears, folks. So with that cut at 15 degrees, this will actually sit in the window opening, so this will be vertical. We'll just have to shim it up in the back to keep that. Now, I've seen where water can run under here and wick up, but if you put a groove down here, it'll break that edge and water will want to drip off instead of wick up under. So we'll cut a little. We'll go in about a half, we'll try about 3/8 of an inch. Plow a little groove in there. So I got both ends notched. That fits in there pretty well. Before I install it, I'm going to go ahead and sand this a little bit and prime it just so it doesn't rot away as quickly. Prime the whole thing before we put it in, and that may end up being tomorrow. On today's menu is wind and rain. Anyway, I got some house wrap put up at least around the window till I ran out and cut it and tacked it back. Kind of folded over the excess inside. I have some of this supposedly self-sticking flashing material. I got a whole roll. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down below the windowsill first. This stuff's kind of lost its stick. So I think what we'll do is we'll put some caulk down to kind of hold it also. I'm going to tack it just so it kind of keeps its shape. Here in the corners, I'll tuck some pieces kind of under it. I'm trying to fill in that gap. Here's the sill piece I made and primed yesterday, so that'll fit in there and give us the slope on top. So on my first test fit, I didn't have enough height, so I'm back to the table saw and set the blade at 15 degrees and ran it through the other direction to flatten off the top right here. It should make the window sit a little better and give you enough height where it'll fit. I was like a 1/4 inch shy, so let me get this attached again. So I think we're finally ready. My math somehow, I don't know what my thought process was when I framed out this window, but I had to shim it, put some 1-inch shims on that side and another piece of 3/4 on this side to get me close to where it'll fit in the opening. This window also has screw holes at the bottom, but there are screw holes up in this top. You have to pop this track out. I'll show you how to do that in a second. But it also came with these plastic shims that I guess are meant to take up the space in the side of the window. They're peel and stick, so I'm going to find all the screw locations because you have to drill through this part, the holes located on the inside. So let me get all these stuck on and then we'll put this thing in. Here's my setup. I have a piece of 2x6 across the top to keep it from falling out. And then down the sides, I nailed some little blocks on to keep the bottom from falling out. So I should be able to put that in and then get it leveled. Obviously, if you were doing this as a replacement window, your trim would be on one side or the other, and you wouldn't have to worry about it falling through. Let's see what we look like here. That's actually perfect. That's actually pretty good too. Let's see how square we are. It's actually good. Now we'll pull that out and go ahead and caulk the bottom and then put it in for the final time. Recheck. That's good. Before we screw it, let's make sure it opens without binding. I have this as plumb and as square as I'm going to be able to get it. So next, I'm going to go ahead and screw this upper right corner in. Got a shim in behind that one, then I'll shim the rest as I go. To get to the hole, you need to pop this piece out. But you have to tilt the window down. Hope it doesn't fall out. And then get in behind and peel this little piece out. Remember, the notch goes at the bottom. Now you can see the holes. Comes with these almost aluminum panhead screws. There we go. You find a longer bit. So it comes with these little white foam deals that I guess you're supposed to cover the screw heads with. So I'll get them put in there and then go around and cut all these shims off. So I've wrapped everything and taped all of the vertical joints. Now we can go ahead and flash this window. I'm going to use this peel and stick stuff again. Go ahead and start at the top and run it down. So I just cut it and ran it down past the edge of the window and stuck it to it all the way up. I'll do the other side and then we'll bring a piece across the top. According to the internet, there's 1,000 ways to flash a window, but pretty much overlapped from the top. Side pieces are underlapped, so water should cascade off if it gets in there. Next, we'll go ahead and trim out the window. Got some plastic brick mold. I've mitered the top and mitered the bottom so it'll fit, match the angle. take a little caulk down here at the bottom. Just going to get it flush with the sill on the bottom and just eyeball the plumbness of it. And I got some finish nails. Up here at the top, I'll put a little caulk in the joint. I've already pre-cut this. Window trim's installed. I also cut the sill flush with the edge of the brick mold once I got it installed. So next, got this foam board to put up. I'll go ahead and get that nailed on. So I spent the rest of yesterday finding the J channel that goes at the bottom, getting it lined up so we can get our first piece on. I also covered it with insulation. One thing I noticed is down in the bottom of this J channel on the bottom, they didn't drill any drain holes. Probably why it's so mildew and dirty looking. So I'm going to put about an 1/8 inch drain hole every foot or so. So I've installed siding up to about 1 course below the window. I should probably go ahead and get the J channel put on the window. Luckily I've got a whole box of it brand new in the garage. So a trick I saw, go ahead and do the bottom piece first. Have a little short scrap piece. Hold that up where we want it. Go to the other side and hold it up. And put a mark where you want to cut it. So next, we need to mark it. We want to cut this piece out that's going to be on top. Now that that's relieved on both sides, hold it up, just make sure it fits right. And nail it. Nailing this every foot or so. And not pounding it in so this can expand and contract. Although likely under here it's never going to see the sun. Before I finish the J channel up here at the top, I was prepared to bend a piece of flashing to go over the top, but I found some of this rain channel, same place where the J channel was, or rain cap I guess it is. So I'll just cut it to length and install it. Extra precaution on top of that, I'll go ahead and flash above that to cover that rain channel, cover the nail holes. I'm going to run it a little wider than the window. Here on the side piece of J channel up at the top, I'm going to cut a notch. And I guess what it would be the side. You want to remove that. And down at what would be the bottom, you want to miter it. About a 45-degree eyeballed angles should be fine. The idea is up at the top piece, we'll have a rain tab that'll roll over that. And then at the bottom, you bend this tab inward and it fits. You bend this around and it fits, interlocks inside this bottom piece. There you go. Here at the top's the same deal. You miter it and cut the rain tab, bend it down, and then in theory, it should just drop in. Help me understand what is going on here. Sometimes you taper these a little bit. They go a little easier. Now we're up to where it's time to cut around the window. Got a piece slipped in over here, and I guess I'll just mark it. Here goes. Now for the moment of truth. This is also the end of April, and the water's like 55 degrees. I don't know how that dude's surviving. We always get a lot of helicopter traffic around here too. Usually they fly by, they don't go inland. So after some beach time, I think we're ready to wrap this up. I got all the siding back on, cleaned it, and it all pretty much fit pretty well, other than obviously I had to cut out for the window. I caulked the window until I ran out. This style window has this piece that would clip in at the bottom and you could trim it to fit. Obviously I don't have that much space, so next time I'll caulk that the rest of the way and then paint the window. I still had some water drips from up above where all this mayhem started. So I want to go ahead and fix that while we're here. I think the majority of this problem was the way they treated this edge here. I smeared it with some roofing cement last time we were here. And also this downspout didn't go very far, so I extended that. So Cooper and I are gonna put down something else to try to seal this up. So I got some big ugly black roofing cement and I got some repair fabric. So my thought is I'll cover that seam and then we'll embed it all in there. Gloves would probably be a good idea here. Of course I don't have them. So I'm going to smear some of this on. Embed it. I have some of this tape. Force that in back on this section. That's loud. And then I'll force some in down here in this crack, and then we'll put some tape on top of that. Stay tuned. So there's a layer underneath, and I'll kind of add some to the top. Try to burn it all through and make it all one. This won't be the prettiest job, but let's hope it'll solve the problem. Okay, so that's pretty much smeared in there the best I could do. Seems like they would have built this where this section I'm standing on was lower than that section, but they didn't, so now we're dealing with it. So anyway, I guess I need to go find some life-shortening solvent to get all this off me. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.